morning, and happy Father's Day to all those rebel dads out there. It's an amazing day to be at church, but it's an amazing day to celebrate and honor all of the fathers in our life. And this morning we wanted to take the opportunity on Father's Day to do something a little bit the same and a little bit different. And that is to be able to bring up some of our rebel fathers, but not only just our rebel fathers to share, but also our rebel fathers' kids. And so you're going to get to hear from some of our staff pastors and Pastor Charlie, but also from our kids this morning. And Pastor Laura is going to host the conversation, so you never know what's going to happen or come out of her mouth. But I just wanted to welcome to the stage this morning my son Asher D. Cadell. Come on up, buddy. We've got Pastor Brian and his daughter, the only lady besides Laura up here this morning, Miss Olivia. And then we've got Pastor Charlie, my father-in-law, the best-looking man under 80 in the building, and his son, Charles P. Mullaney III. Y'all come on up here. There should be Asher, you're supposed to be over here. First seat. Yeah, right there. Charles is there. There's a mic behind you. It should be on, but I'll turn it over to you, my lovely wife, to take this conversation where you want.
Let's see. Yeah, I'm excited. Obviously, I get to share the stage with not only my husband, but my son Asher, niece Olivia, brother-in-law. I mean, it's all in the family. My dad, my brother. I'm really excited that you guys get to hear from my brother Charles. A lot of people are like, you have a brother? Because he's always like the quiet, kind of behind-the-scenes kind of guy. But honestly, I think he's one of the best dads that I know, and I really am excited for you guys to get to hear from him too, and then of course my own father. But yeah, so let's go ahead. Dad, why don't you tell us? We'll start with a little intro. Dad, you can tell us. How long have you been married? How many kids do you have? Which one's your favorite one? And then you can pass it on over to Charles.
Well, first off, it's a little bit intimidating because I can't, bloviate or make up any stories because all these people know me. So y'all might go, oh, that's pretty cool, but I got to be right, so it's pretty dull life here. But I appreciate, it isn't really, I have to admit, when you have 4 children and a wonderful, beautiful wife that was very supportive over all the years, and it creates, when you start from the beginning of knowing that you want to live a life that is going to be honorable to the Father in heaven, that there's no surprise to me that I end up looking at this lineup up here and realize that they're all mighty men and women of God and that they love and serve Him. And it isn't something that we just take lightly. It's a privilege and an honor and something that makes me very proud as a father. So
how many
maybe
kids
I didn't
do you
answer
have?
it, but that was it.
Which one is your favorite? No, just kidding.
Who's
how many
my favorite?
kids? How many years you've been married? All that.
Well, how many years have we been married? We're going to be married probably, I think, 49 or 50 years this year.
50.
So,
wow, come on.
Yeah. December 27th, 1975 is when we got married. A lot of you people don't even know what that date is. You think it's olden days, and it's really not, Y'all are just little young whippersnappers.
You were born in the 1900s.
Yeah.
That's what the kids say these days.
Thank you very much. But
I was too.
Yeah, Charles came first. He was our oldest son. And then, of course, behind him is Vanessa, and she's over in youth with her husband. Then, of course, Dino or Laura, And, of course, there's a good story why she's called Dino. And then I can't ever forget little baby Jacqueline, who's there. And, of course, to a dad who raises 3 daughters and a son, you still don't know who these spouses are going to end up being. And I can't say that we didn't just actually hit the jackpot on every one of them, almost, Brian, but it's okay.
I'm still working for it.
Yeah.
I got 7 more years of labor.
And then the grandkids, good grief, 17 grandkids. That's something, yeah. And the cool thing is, everybody likes each other. You know, we all get along very well. At least I think so. So is that it?
Charles?
What was the questions again?
You know, how many kids? How long have you and Ginger been married? All that.
Well, I am Charles Pascalini III, and I have a son that's the fourth. I have 4 kids. But I just want to start with that because every time I went somewhere with my dad, we met people. He had to tell them the genealogical order of, are you the junior? Are you the third? We're all Charleses. Yeah. We had to go through the airport. We all stood there with our passports or our IDs, and we're like, we're all Charleses. She was like, I don't care, just go through. She's like, that's a good one. So yeah, so I'm the third. I'm married to Ginger. We met in high school. Beautiful wife.
Yes.
I have twins, Piper and Shiloh. Layla Mulaney, the gem of my eye. She's my oldest. And then Charlie the fourth. He's in childcare. Yeah, been married for 15 years. 16 years. Oh. 16 years. Well, we've known each other all through high school, so it's been a long, exciting journey. Yeah, very excited to go through this and experience and talk about what we got and follow up on this guy. He's going to be awesome. So yeah.
I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it with my dad here. Thank God he's not here because I'd be crying. I'd be crying. I have 5 children. Oh my gosh. I have 5 children now. Livy's the oldest. She is 12, going on 50. Just mean you're old. You're very old for your age. She's 12. I have Zoe, who's 8, or 10. Sure, I'm gonna mess all this up. Charlotte is 6. Jack is 4. Honor's 2. Thank God I got it all. Okay. And I know all their birthdays, so don't ask me that question. I know every single birthday. I don't know their social security numbers, but I haven't pulled out credit cards yet on their names, so I will do that soon. I'm just kidding. I would never do that, parents. And I've been married, 13? Is it 13? 14 years in July 10th. So I'm excited. Livy. Oh, no. Sorry.
Livy, how long have you been married and how many?
I haven't been married, and I don't have kids, so that's how that's going.
Perfect. I was just kidding, but it's all good. So Laura and I have been married 20 years this November. 20 years in November. We've got 4 beautiful children. Asher just turned 18. His social security number is 62702. I won't say the last 4. Asher's 18, Bella's 16. Yeah. Mia is 13, and Judah is 9. That's right. And take it away.
Okay, all right. So we're going to start off with a question for all of you dads. First of all, tell us a little bit about what your relationship with your father was like, and how did that influence you as a father? Go ahead, Dad.
Well, I really had a good dad. He died early. He was 47 when he passed, but all my good memories of my father were always good. We did not have a lot of stress or turmoil in our home, and I believe as a result of seeing how he treated my mom and us as kids, I think it was a good setting point for me to realize what kind of a standard and how a father or a husband could be, good and provider, and also just be a pal, and he was. I mean, up until, he passed away, like I said, it was an unusual situation, but he was a great dad, and I think I emulated him somewhat because I knew if he could treat the whole family that way, I think it was a good model for a start for me. At least I think so. I'm hoping so, but that's the way it goes.
Charles, what was your relationship with your father like? And how did he influence you as a father?
This is tough. Just growing up as a kid, it was tough to be the only boy in a house full of females. So he hated every time I said 5v1. He was like, no, I'm always on your side. No, it's always 5 girls versus 1 of me. So yeah, it's but he taught me a work ethic that is still instilled in me for forever. So coming down to keeping the house clean, car clean, just lifestyle, just doing anything you need to be doing has groomed me to where I need to be today, and it's helping me with my kids as well. So yeah, this guy you set me up, guys. Really.
I'm telling you, dude. Start talking about it.
Next.
Don't just
Yeah.
cut it off.
So
Yeah.
yeah. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Are you done? Because I mean, I want to cut the tears. If you want, I think people like for people to cry. So it's like Oprah. We want to all just weep here. No, I was thinking about this last night because I joke, but I did read a book. It's called The Intentional Father, and I was thinking about my dad growing up, and our relationship with my relationship with my father was, I would say it was more modeled than spoken. My dad grew up in an age where I think men didn't communicate their feelings or why they did what they did. It was just kind of like dad did his thing. But I caught so much from him that I'm so grateful for. Just like you said, the work ethic. My dad taught me how to do electrical stuff early in my teen years, and building forts. And I remember doing stuff not all the time with him, but there was times where he would show me things like that, and how to change a tire, and random little things that just I wouldn't have picked up from my mom, obviously. And so it wasn't necessarily that we sat down and had all these deep conversations, but it was definitely something that he showed me how to live more than he told me how to live. Yeah.
Well, check 1, 2. I had the same father as Brian, except I came through. How old are you, Brian?
I am 39.
39, yeah. So I came through about 5.5 years before him. Being the first, I think, like you get all the years of your dad like learning how to be a father, which is cool. But also, like, I think I know for me, like my relationship with my dad was different. Like, if he wasn't a communicator, like when Brian came through, he was not a communicator at all when I came through. And so I think for me that, like Brian said, my dad was rock solid. Like, we were in church. Like, he taught us to love God. He taught us to work hard, like all the things, in life. But I think the one thing, that I learned that's influenced my, being a father is that communication aspect, and just developing that and knowing, like, hey, it's okay as a man and as a father to, like, have feelings and feel for your kids and want things for your kids and communicate openly with your kids. And I think, especially in today's culture, like that's not something that is, it's not taught. It's not promoted for men to like express your feelings, and it's okay to have emotions, and it's okay to get choked up when you're talking about a father, because that's it should be a special relationship. And so, yeah, that's the biggest influence, for me, was learning how to, how to be for my kids what I necessarily didn't get. Not that there was anything wrong with that, but yeah, I think that's the biggest influence, on my life.
Good, babe.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw it to Livy and then Asher. You guys, Livy, what is one thing about your dad that you love that people might not know?
So, my dad is like very like kind. He always like makes a person feel like the best. He'll always go out of his way to make someone feel that they are special or they're needed or they're wanted. And he's just like very kind. I love him.
That's good. Sweet, Livy Lou.
Thank you.
Asher, what's something about your dad that you love that people might not know about him?
Okay, one thing, I saw this question whenever you texted all the questions, and the first thing that came to my mind, one thing that I love about my dad that y'all might not know is the fact that he was in a Creed cover band. I think about it a lot. I do. That was the first thing that came to my head.
How come I don't even know that?
That's real, right? That's the thing.
Is that a fever dream? Were you in a Creed cover band?
He was the lead singer.
Oh, no. Oh, you kind of,
What
his
was
hair looked like Asher. What was it?
It was a church worship band called Seven Blessings, yeah. And yes, we did have songs that reminded people of Creed. And we played a few of them just for fun. Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, he said. Oh, okay. Okay.
You were also in another band in high school that was.
Okay, but another thing, I'll give like a serious one. One thing I love about my dad that y'all might know about him just from observing him, but I guess you wouldn't fully get to see is that my dad, I've noticed about him, he balances a lot, he juggles a lot in his life, but he never lets it all like fall over. Like he's really good at balancing everything he's got going on in his life, and it's really admirable. And it's really, I think it shaped the way I handle things in my life when I feel like I'm getting really overwhelmed. I think about my dad and how he's able to somehow manage it all, and I try and be like him in those moments when I get really stressed out. So yeah, that's the second thing that came to my mind.
That was good, Ash. Charles, what do you think? What's something about your dad that you love?
My
that
dad
people
was
may
in
not
a
know?
Willie Nelson cover band.
So much better.
Wow, I'm learning a lot.
Yeah.
What was your favorite song that he sang?
Well, okay, we'll go with it. Well, my thing that I admire my dad a lot is what I try to pick up, and people say I have that tendency or that thing is to spark a conversation with anybody. Yeah. He could be anywhere, anytime, anywhere, and he could be in the lunch line or in the grocery store, talk to the cashier. Yeah. Well, we just went on a soccer trip with my dad. It's probably the first time I've been in a soccer trip for a long time. And he doesn't know the etiquette of what side of the field to be on, but he was on the other side of the field with the away team talking, and had some parents like, hey, is that your dad over there? And he's shaking hands, being cordial, and they're like, you need to get your dad on this side if he wants to support. So I just thought, I was like, that's my dad. He'll talk to whoever, anybody, anytime. And it's something that I try to use in my daily life. And I make sure even just saying a hi to somebody can easily distract somebody if we say nice shirt. So yeah, it's just something I just admire and something I picked up, and I feel like I'm trying to get into my kids, just to even just saying hi or just spark a conversation, or you need some help or something. But yeah, something I admire from my dad.
That's very true. Dad can talk to anybody. Dad, how has it been? We know that you were obviously a great father, but how has it been being a grandfather?
Well, the good thing is, like they say, with being a granddad is it's pretty cool because, I mean, they do say it, but literally when you got 17 of them, I get a lot of practice on it. But it's like starting off with Asher D-E-E, as they say. I call him the D-man over there. But you can spoil them, you can hang out with them, you can play with them, and when it's over, you send them home. It don't matter, you know. Somebody else gets the cookies, somebody else gets the sugar, somebody else has to do that. And I can tell you, I don't want to point to anybody in the room who, would they bring them over and say, Dad, here's so-and-so, and put them on my lap, and then you hear the thunder from down under. And I always could, the cool part then was, they're not mine. I go, somebody come get this kid. You know, that it may sound weird, but it's important, guys. Just remember that. Yeah. Remember that. But I guess that's it, Laura.
Is it important? Are you saying it's important to pass off the dirty diaper? Because I will do that all day long.
Yes, that's what he's saying.
Well, as a dad, you know you got to handle that deal. But as a grandfather, you just look for somebody else in the room.
I get it. I get it.
Okay. Brian, what have you learned about the father heart of God on your journey as a dad?
Whew. Oh, man. I don't think God makes mistakes. I think that our Father in heaven is very intentional. I think that if I was to look back at my life and look through the lens of a father, I would definitely hold to the scripture that says that God disciplines the one he loves. And that through every season of my life, the mountaintops and the valleys, he's been there. And now that I'm a father, seeing young ones grow up, it's a beautiful thing to kind of have that perspective of it's okay for my children to walk through things because I'm going to be there to guide and to support, and I want to model that for them as best I can. So I would say that's the biggest thing is he doesn't make mistakes. He's in it every season. It's your ability to continue to, what is Colossians 3, continue to set your sights on things that are above, not on the things of the earth, because we're going to reap and we're going to see the glory of God on this earth is kind of what that scripture talks about. And so I don't go through these crazy emotions when it comes to Livy or the children, the friends that she makes and all the things, the choices she makes, because I know that we have a relationship where she can come ask questions, and she does. And I would say that's the biggest thing.
That kind of brings me to well, babe, what would you say in answering that question? What have you learned about the father heart of God on your journey as a dad?
I would say I've learned that God's not looking for perfection. Like, I think as a parent, as a father, like, you want so much for your kids. Like, you want so much for them not to make the same mistakes you did and not to have to walk through some of the pain and some of the different things that you've walked through. And so there's a constant, for me, I know at least early on, it was just trying to, really push in certain directions. But I think, what I've learned from God is he created me, he knows me. Like, I, had a part in creating this kid and these kids on the front row, and, I know them, but I also know that God knows them better, and he's not looking for perfection from me. Yeah. And as a father, I can't be looking for I got to allow them to, I've got to entrust them to God. God, they're yours. You've given them to me to manage. And so if I trust you, trust in God, my Savior, right? Yeah. If I sing that and I mean it, then I've got to entrust my kids to God. I got to lead them and guide them, but, allow them to journey through life and make mistakes and have mountaintops and valleys, but, develop their own relationship with their Father in heaven. Yeah.
So Asher, kind of going off on that, what has Dad taught you about following Jesus?
About following Jesus, I think about the last answer I just gave is going along with how my dad's able to balance everything. I'd say that from watching how my dad handles things, that his faith in God is always his northern star. If I'm gonna do a sailor reference or something, like a sailor analogy, no matter what kind of stuff is going on in the boat he's in or whatever, he's always looking towards Jesus. That is that northern star. That's his guiding force. And yeah, I think that's cool. I do. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's just he's taught me that never to lose sight of what you believe in, even whenever it can get hard to believe in what you believe in sometimes, but just never lose sight of it. Keep your faith strong. Yes.
It's good.
Kind of
Lou?
like Asher, he tells us how to live Christ-like and how to live with God in your mind. And no matter what you do, just remember God's there and he'll be watching you no matter what.
Yeah. Does your dad have a couple sayings that he says to you guys before you get out of the car?
Yes.
Go ahead and share.
If you believe it, you can achieve it. If you think you can or think you can't, you're right.
A little louder and clear, say it more clear.
If you believe it, you can achieve it. If you think you can or think you can't, you're right.
Yeah. Has that helped you? You feel like you're going into, let's see, next year you're going to be in what grade? Seventh grade. So we know middle school can be kind of rough, especially on girls. What do you feel like your dad has helped you to prepare in going out into middle school and being around kids and all of that? How do you feel like he's helped you in that?
He tells me, don't listen to people. If they say anything, bad about you, that's not you. That's just what they think you are. Don't let people define who you are.
That's really good, Livy Lou. I'm proud of you, Livy. Yeah, you're doing a good job. So, Dad, what, as your kids started to move into adulthood and that transition between them being kids and then having to watch them become adults, what is something that you were intentional in doing as they moved into adulthood?
While they were all still at home on the way out, when you were going on dates with flakes and stuff like that, Laura?
Dates with Flakes.
No,
That should be a
well,
Netflix
not-
series,
You know,
a reality show.
Yeah.
Dates with Flakes.
that's it. Remember
Is
that
it
line.
Dandrift? Sorry.
Yeah, they're there. They're there. Believe me, they're there. You know, but I think I would say for me, I think a lot of it's bewildering when you watch children go from the adolescent stage into the independence and wanting to be on their own somewhat, and then realizing that you're still trying to keep a hand of guidance, and because they're your flesh and blood and they're your love of your life, even in that sense. But I say for me, a lot of that, watching you all transition, and what I might have thought, I would bounce it off Mom, because to me, I might take it different. I'm gonna shoot that boy, you know, or something, where he's not allowed in the house, or you know, stuff like that, crazy. Because you don't want to see that with your girls, you know, you just don't. You want the best, you want to nurture. So watching that happen, and then having to allow them to make decisions, kind of what like Brandon was saying, and hoping that those are good decisions, and then they're outside, and you're watching them come in, and with a son, it's a little bit different. It's not so guarded, you know. You know that you raise them a certain way, and you know that he's going to respect and honor and do everything that you have told him. At least you believe so. But if you raise up a child in the way they will go when they're old, they will not depart from it. End of story. You may not see it, but they all come around at some point in time, and they continue. If you have godly principles, godly way of raising children, then when you see that transition, you have to realize you've done what God wants you to do. You've imparted in them the elements that they need, the word that they need, the strength that they get from it, and realize that they can do it on their own. And it does get a little bit weird, because as a father, and you watch it, you kind of have a little tendency to feel like, okay, they're mine. God's entrusted them to me. And at some point, when they break away, all of a sudden you feel like, hey, you know, you feel not necessarily insignificant, but now you're watching from a whole different perspective. No longer do they necessarily come to ask, hey, Dad, can you do this? Or Dad, can you help me with that? Because all of a sudden these guys all come into the picture. So you're like, it's theirs. It's theirs. You just watch that transition go. Yeah. So, you know, and it's good both ways.
That's good. Charles, obviously growing up in a house with 3 sisters, and you were the only boy, but now raising your girls, and then the difference in raising, like, what have you learned in raising daughters versus raising a son, and how can you now look back on the way you were raised and be like, oh, like what did you take from that, and how you were raised versus, oh, now I get it, like how different it is in raising girls versus boys? What's something that you've learned from that?
Well, being raised around 3 sisters, my dad instilled in something in me that till this day I teach my son is not touch a girl, no matter what. And even if they hit you, you got to teach them to like find a trusted adult or find a different avenue, but don't retaliate. And I have a good example. One time I was walking through the hallway at the old house, and I passed Vanessa's room. She popped me in the eyeball, I fell down. I wanted to get back, but I was like, oh, I'm gonna go tell. I went and told Dad, and he said, that's what you get. So I was like, man, he must have done something to Vanessa to deserve that. And I'm like, yeah. So now every time I pass Vanessa's room at the old house, I would be kind of to like make sure I ran through real quick, because I knew she got the green light. But I just knew that, just knew that I was not allowed to touch girls. That's how it started as a young kid, even all the way up, not touch none of my sisters. So that's something I truly appreciate, something that's gonna be lifelong, a skill that's very important. And going back to what my dad said is something that I've always known God. Since I was a little kid, went to church. I think I went to ask Jesus in my heart when I was 1st through 3rd grade, like every Sunday. Like I wanted my picture taken, and they're like, all right, Charles, you're up there. I got one from last week, or I wanted a little prize, but I didn't know the difference. I always went up there, and going to a private school and being in that environment is just something that I still, and it's been engraved in my DNA to something I know that I still in my kids, and stuff that he showed me that Sunday's the Lord's Day, and every Sunday, no matter what it is, whatever you got going on, we're going to church. We're going to spend time with the Lord. It's a rest day, and that's something that's been in me, and it's something I teach my kids. But having a daughter is and 2 twins is crazy. It's I know boys. I don't know girls. I know sisters. I know they're very emotional, and just have to walk on eggshells. It's just something I've learned with my sister. So I try to do it with my older daughter as she gets older. Yeah, y'all put me in a weird spot.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just whatever I learned, he taught me. I still instill in my kids, and the main thing I still tell my son this day is just don't touch a female, and it's something that I even do with my kids when I teach. Like, yeah, the boys tell me like, hey, just trust the Lord. It's better get that way. You don't touch nobody. So yeah, those little life skills.
Yeah, because you talked about, because you're a teacher, right?
Yeah, yes.
Teacher of the year.
Teacher of the year 2 times in a row, is that what?
No, I was teacher of the year and then PE teacher of the year.
Of course.
yes.
Okay, what a small thing.
Humble, no big deal.
No, Charles is real quick. Charles is the guy that he reminds me a little bit of my father because he doesn't have to say much, but his life, the way he is with his children, I said this at Thanksgiving. It's not flattery. If you watch his life, he's remarkable on how he fathers his children. He's a great father. He's intentional with his kids, and he loves them deeply. And I've always admired that about Charles, for sure.
Yeah. Thanks, mate. It's true. Brian, what about you in raising girls and now boys and being raised, with a bunch of boys and that dynamic of raising girls versus raising boys?
Yeah, Jacqueline tells me all the time, you got to watch your words. I think that I've learned that I should carry this around, and it's an idea I had, but you should carry like a 10-pound pen with you. Every man should carry a 10-pound pen because your words have meaning. Your words carry weight. And I think that I've learned to seek to understand as much as I can because I'm very harsh at times. I'm just like, why are you crying?
And yet, you were one of the more emotional boys growing
I'm
up, I hear.
Emotional. But it's over stuff you're just kind of like, why? There's no reason to cry over that, or whatever. So I think that's it. The biggest thing I've learned is your words carry weight. Seek to understand first, especially specifically with girls. The boys are so young right now that I think I love that they're rough. I think about the times with my dad, and I think you would agree with me with this, but my dad taught me how to be a kid with his kids. He taught me how to be a kid with my kids, right? And so he was a kid with us. He got on the floor, and what I mean by that, he was like, yes, he didn't talk much, but the moment we started playing, we were the only thing in the world. And he would play with us, and I'm talking, hours of rolling around on the living room floor, wrestling with my dad. And some of the best memories I have are just him playing with us, as simple as that is. And so I've learned that from my dad for sure, is like with all my kids, just be the type of dad that always is willing to get down, wrestle, and understand that they're each individually different, unique. Charlotte is a whole nother category. Like I have Charlotte is in another category. Livy's, it's like they're crazy different. And as a father, I have to try to interpret that and then model and mold them the way that they were designed,
Yeah.
So your words carry weight.
I'll let you answer that real quick, and then I've got a question for Asher and Livy. It's kind of along those same lines. So I'll let you answer that question.
It's been a long time. What was the question again?
Like raising boys versus raising girls. What's something that you've learned, something you took from how different it was in a house full of boys, all that?
Yeah, I think so. Brian and I grew up in a house of four boys. There was only boys, it's way different. Especially, obviously Brian and I, we married sisters. For those of you that don't know, so Brian and I came from the same family, but then married into the same family. In which coming into that family, it was a female-dominated family, and so it was very, very different, right? And I think Brian mentioned your words carry weight. That is very, very true. But also your tone sets the tone, and that's one thing I've learned, especially with. It's not
exactly what you say. It's sometimes how you say it. And so that's one of the things I think that, I've learned with my daughters, with my wife for sure, is just being able to not only think about what you say, but be intentional on how you say it, the tone with which you say it, not being reactionary, right? I think for men, our tendency is to be reactionary. It's like, what? What are you talking about? No, that's not what I meant. That's not what I said. We can be very harsh, very knee-jerk reactionary, and that doesn't bring stability for a woman, for a daughter, for a wife. Like, women are waves crashing upon. You need to be the shore, solid, and just let them crash on you with their emotions and their feelings and all of the things, and not be reactionary in what, there's no crying in baseball, right?
Yeah.
No, there is crying in baseball if women are playing, right? And you got to be okay with that. And it's just learning to just be solid. And the only way to do that is when you know who you are in Christ, number one, who he's called you to be, and then knowing that, you have it in you to be whatever it is you need for your daughters, for your son. Charlie's right. Like, raising a son is different, right? You just trust it. It's just like, you do the best that you can. Watch what I do, yeah.
How has it been raising two teenage girls and the conversations that you get to hear and the things that they share? How crazy different has it been?
Oh, it's like waking up, your girls become teenagers, and then like you wake up one day and you're like on Mars, and you're just like it's hard to breathe, and you're just like, what is this world of, like, I don't even understand what y'all are saying right now.
Or you
and
just really
why
don't like when they mention
are
any
we
boy
talking
is
about
even
boys?
remotely
Like,
cute.
why?
You get
Like,
so mad.
why? Right? He was in a car passing on the highway. You're never going to see him again. Why even?
You
right?
get so
And
worked up.
This is where the tone comes in, right? This is where the reactionary tone comes in. And when your daughters are talking about boys, just cancel out everything I said. You can be reactionary, and you can raise your voice and things just to scare them off a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Because I don't want to end up in prison.
Yeah.
Because I will shoot someone, okay? I'm just kidding. I'm joking. But no, it's definitely been interesting in,
What advice would you give? So, like, obviously, Layla is how old, Charles? 15. Yeah, so Layla's just between Mia and Bella, and then of course there's Livy Lou, who's just under Mia, and it's like we've always had these girl cousins around, but we've always had the oldest ones, and I feel like we both have like been aware of that and how we're raising our kids and the influence that they're going to have on their cousins and things like that. But yeah, what advice would you give like Charles and Ginger going into like the later teenage years, raising older teens, of like how different or what, is there anything that you would do differently, or anything that looking back, like, hey, I wish someone would have told me this about raising teenagers?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is, I mean, it's what you've taught me, is it's just being intentional, right? I think with teenagers, I think the more intentional you can be with your conversation, with knowing who they are individually. Like, my daughters are, they're the same, but they're different, right? It's like Mia. I know Mia will stick up for me. Like, when she thinks that I'm being misunderstood or Mia will stick up for me, right? And I know that about her, and Bella is just like, she's so compassionate and caring, and she feels like for everyone and everything, and not that Mia doesn't, but it's just different, right? Mia would rather be in her room, in a dark room, like with her hot Cheetos.
Embarrass her
You know
right
what I'm saying? On constant FaceTime with Livy, like they live life on FaceTime.
Cut my
Right?
life into pieces.
That's a story we're gonna have to share in a
Yeah.
minute. Yeah.
But yeah, and Bella's just different, right? Bella needs me to come and kill bugs that are in her room flying around.
Bella's very rarely ever in her room alone. She can't stand it. She's always
Yes.
got to be with
She's
someone or
gotta be
talking to
out.
someone.
Yeah.
Or,
And Bella likes to talk, right? And so, just the difference between the two, and that's girls, but obviously like older teenage boys. It's just like I think with Asher, I would say that the biggest thing is just having intentional conversations where he knows that like he can come to me with anything, whatever he's going through. Like Dad's not going to be shocked, not going to be surprised, not going to condemn, not going to come down on him. It's just like, hey, this is what's going on. Here's what you need to hear from me as your father. I'm leaving this in your hands. You're a grown boy. You can make your decisions. But I think it's just intentionality. Knowing your kids, taking the time, because it's time, it's effort, and it's energy to know each of them individually and be able to respond in ways that speak to who they are.
yeah. Asher, what would you say you've learned just in growing up with, a house of sisters, or just watching how Dad treats me or how Dad treats the girls? What do you feel like you want to take from that, and what do you feel like you've learned as you're, obviously 18, about to go off to college? What's something that you feel like you've learned by watching Dad and how he treats how he treats me, his wife, and what do you want to take from that growing into adulthood? I'm going to give you a minute.
Yeah, maybe. I gotta think about this.
Okay. Livy Lou, how do you feel like your relationship with your dad has helped you be who you are? And tell us a funny story about him walking in on you singing a song the other night. Okay, just kidding. I won't make you do it.
No. He's definitely like a great role model to base myself off of, so that's very nice because, not everybody's blessed to grow up in a life with an amazing dad like mine. So I'm very happy that I've just got very blessed. And wait, what was the question?
Just how has your relationship with your dad helped you in growing up, and now that you're becoming, older, middle school, how has that helped your confidence and knowing who you are?
So he always tells us to be like confident in ourselves. So I would definitely like base myself off of that. Like, you can do whatever you like. Wait, no. You are like your person, so don't let anybody else base you off of what like I just said.
Yeah.
This stuff.
It's okay. You're doing good.
Yeah.
You are who you surround yourself with, right? Yeah. It's a good job, Livy. Asher?
Okay, so you're saying like from observing the way that Dad interacts with you
Something
and the
that, yeah.
girls, something. That's something that came to my mind. I look at you and Dad's dynamic, and I think it's pretty cool how it's not just like the dad does this and the mom does this. This is the way it is, like strict. Like the dad goes out and he gets the work, he gets the money, and the mom's like all that. Like, nah. Like I like how it's like it's a very equal. I don't know. Is neutral the correct word to use? I don't know. Just a good blend of those, of the two. Yeah, of the responsibilities. And yeah, I like that. Like, yeah, I think that's a good thing to have in a relationship that I will definitely aspire for.
It's
Yes.
good. Yes. That's good, Ash. And I guess we'll just do a couple more, but I was going to ask, how would you encourage moms to spur on dads? I'll let any of you gentlemen.
Barbecue.
Barbecue. Spur 'em on.
Well, actually, I think Asher started on a point there about Brandon, and I think it's important. And I think we learn that as men, we say, I say it, and I think it's a scriptural thing where you just say, Christ, he told us, love your wife as Christ loved the church. And you want to see a wife be spurred on and to your support and doing things for you, then you take up a role in her life. You start doing, no, but I mean, really, if you think you're an island unto yourself, you're doomed. You're not. And none of us are tough enough to be able to take that on. And all of us men need to have a good support and a good backbone and see something happening we know that, if I have the worst, trashiest, bummest day or have gone through some of the toughest times, I know that when I pull in my driveway that I'm going to get unconditional support and love from that woman. And she's going, whether I'm right or not, it doesn't matter. It's a matter of the fact that I know that she's got my back. And that doesn't come by saying, woman, you're going to do what I tell you to do. That doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's, I love her, I honor her, I respect her. I'm going to take up my best role that I can. I'm going to do the things that I believe I can. And one thing that's important to a wife, and your wife, is how do you treat your own children? I mean, it's important because to her, she's a coddler and nurturer, and she's a mama bear. You just don't go in there and mess around with those kids, You treat them right. You treat them with respect. You show those things. And when she sees that as a role and how you are, and it's not false, make sure it's real because that's what God wants us to be. And if you can do that, you're going to see that spurred on attitude, and you're going to see that support, and you're going to see that helpmate. You're going to see the things you need, not because you asked for it, but because you proved worthy of that support. That's what I got to say.
Yeah.
Good, Dad. I'm going to ask one more to each of you, and it's going to be different, just to throw you off a little bit. Charles, what is something that your dad did when you were a kid that you do now as a dad?
Mow a lawn.
No, it's, I don't know if y'all know this, might be old school, but MacGyver. We used to watch MacGyver
yes.
a lot. So my dad can get a pine cone, ketchup, and a toothpick and start your car real quick. So yeah, his MacGyverness is even to this day. My son tries it. He doesn't know what MacGyver is, but if he could find some way to make a fix work, or he'll find some possible way wherever it is.
Yep.
So yeah, just the geniuses of him trying to problem solve something with his environment, which is crazy. So yeah, it's something that me and my son still to this day try to do. So yeah.
You can fix it. That's good.
Paz will fix it.
Paz
Yep.
can fix it. That's what we always say. Brian, what's a scripture or other resources would you encourage dads to explore?
I mean, this is the information age. I think dads should have I think dads should lead the way in striving to become an intentional father, as Pastor Brandon was saying. I think that we live in a day and age in our culture that, there's not a sending off of the young ones, right? There's not this in every other culture, it's like, you're going to go and survive the Romans. Like if the dad wanted you, he would raise you. He would raise you up, and that's why they said you'd raise your children, right? He'd choose to raise you, and if he didn't raise you up when you were a baby, they would leave the child out. There's many other cultures that I think that have this demarcation of when they go from being a child to okay, you're an adult. And I think as a father, things that I think that I should be intentional with is I have to get the information in order to become the dad that I need to become. I'm not saying it's just information because I have to model it, I have to put it into action. But I think that number one, when you have the relationship in the house with the mom and the dad together, supporting, loving one another, there comes a fuel that fuels the dad to go out and do what he's called to do in his life. And that comes through honest, open conversation in the marriage. And so if you can't get down to the deep stuff in the marriage and it's all surface level, you're never sharing with, then the dad is either deflated. There's just multiple things that happen in that dynamic. And so dads can't operate without without that partnership with the wife. And that's what you were talking about, is that unconditional love. And so I think that when that combines, it helps the fathers kind of go out and go, okay, I don't just have to focus on making a living. I can focus on intentionally being a father and training up my children in the way they should go so that when they get old, they don't depart from it.
That's good.
That's all I got.
Livy Lou, what is one of your favorite memories with your dad?
So there's a lot, but I remember this one time, but y'all call it like a daddy-daughter date, and me and my dad went on one, and we went to Chili's, and we played like the little mouse game on like that laptop, and I remember playing it, and like my dad could get through all the levels, but I couldn't, and I thought he was just so cool because he could do it. And I was like, well, how do you do it? And then I remember after we like played all of that, I got my mac and cheese that I used to love, and then we ordered like the lava cake thingy that the way to my heart is sugar, so. Yeah, so I just remember that, and that's like always my favorite memory where I think of like, you look at my dad today, and that he was like such an amazing father.
Yeah, that's good. Ash, what is one of your favorite, or maybe, favorite experiences or memories with dad?
Experience or memory with my dad. We've been to 2 John Mayer concerts, and with John Mayer, that's like the only musical thing that me and my dad can like relate on. That's like all we have. It's like John Mayer between us, and that's it. That's about it. Well, I kind of like Pat Green a little bit. But anyways, those 2 experiences are really cool. But one thing I remember from that, it's not even the actual concert, but I was thinking about is the second time that we went to go see John Mayer. Before that, we were just trying to find things to do. We were in Austin, and like we were just like looking for things to do, and there was like nothing. We couldn't think of anything, so we just kind of walked around. And we probably weren't talking to each other that much for like an hour. And we just sat on a bench, and I was like, I remember I had this thought of like, I can have a good time with my dad, not just from going and doing something. Like, I can just have a conversation with him. So, me and my dad, we talk, but we never, and this isn't a bad thing, I'm not saying that, but we never, like, I don't know, like, it's never, I don't know how to describe it. Like, we talk to each other, but it's never just, like, I talk to, like, I don't know, like, my friend, I guess, or something like that, where it's just, like, whatever. But I realized I didn't really know a lot about what my dad likes about music and what my dad finds the appeal in John Mayer. I always knew he liked John Mayer, but I never really knew where that came from. So I decided just to ask. I was like, so what is it that you like about John Mayer? And I remember him telling me about how he enjoys more of the lyrical side of things. And I talked to him how I like more of the instrumental side of things. And it was just cool to me because I never would have really known that if I hadn't just decided to ask my dad. And I think that's just something I think about when I think about having intentional conversations with my dad. Is it goes both ways, Like, my dad's always asking me what's going on with me, so I can do that too. Yeah, but that was a good memory. Think about that.
Good, Ash. Really good. Who would you say was your very first musical, had a big impression on you, and what music you liked as a young kid?
And what music I liked as a young
I'm implying
kid.
Pos, because remember?
Yeah. Pos, yeah, definitely. His 70s music is definitely, that was my first introduction into actual music that wasn't like K-Love Christian.
You know what? I was trying to shield
And,
you,
like,
and then you would come
96.1
home
top
singing the
hits.
Doobie Brothers, and I'd be like, Dad, he's 4.
Yeah, that 70s music.
I know. You started young. He would go work with you, and you would turn on but he loved it. And that's like, it was cool to see, like.
Well, look at him now. He's a throwback.
Look
He's
at
not
him.
he's not one of these new kids now. Look at he's me when I was 18.
Would you look at that?
What's so
look-
bad about that? You
Yeah.
go, boy, you go.
Yeah.
All right, last question, Brandon D. What would you have done differently as a dad, and what would you have done the same?
What would I have done differently? As a dad, I think I would have listened more I think that, if we're wrapping this thing up, let me just preach for a few minutes so people feel like they've been to church. I'm just kidding. But no, I think Romans 12:2 says, do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what is God's true, pleasing, and perfect will for your lives. And I think that as a dad, for me, early on as a dad, like, I just thought I had to have all the answers. I had to know everything. I had to fix everything. I had to be all, end all, say all, and I didn't listen. But God, as a father, God gives you a helpmate that was taken not from your head to rule over you, not from your feet to be trampled on by you, but from your side, that she might be your equal, from under your arm, that she might receive your protection, from near your heart, that she might own and command your love, right? So, I'm going somewhere, I promise. And so, I think not listening. As fathers, you have a helpmate, you have someone in your wife that God has given you to be able to help you interpret this world together as a team. And so I think that's one thing I would have done differently, is just listen more and relied upon the Holy Spirit to lead and guide. Allowed God to kind of just, to trust him in the process. And then what would I have done the same? What would I have done the same? Well, I going back, I would have married you every time. I would have done that the same. And I think just continuing to point our kids, always just point our kids to Jesus. Like, we don't have the answers. I think one thing that we've always done is we've not been afraid to apologize when we've been wrong, or when we've made bad decisions, or when we've overreacted. It's just like, as a parent, when you think you can't make mistakes, you think apologizing is like a defeat, but it's actually, I think it's a benefit when you come to your kids and say, hey, Dad overreacted. I shouldn't have yelled like that. I shouldn't have used that tone. I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have treated your mom that way. That's my bad. That's on me. I think that does more for your kids' development. And so, yeah, I think that's something that I would, 100 times
All right.
do the same.
And real quick, Dad, what's one word that you hope that your kids remember you as?
Why don't you tell me what you would remember me at?
Oh.
Got her.
No, I would say you were, well, gosh, I wasn't ready for that. No, I would say you were always a very present dad. And I think that's why it's so important to me to show my presence, is because I remember just feeling like, and you would always tell me, I love you. You always told me how much you loved me. I always knew my dad, that's kind of what kept me straight. I never wanted to disappoint my dad because I knew how much you loved me and how much you saw in me. And so I don't even know one word. I would just say you were always you still are very intentional.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, you threw that back on me.
But, as I was sitting here, folks, it's not self-serving in the sense, but God puts on our life, when he puts two people together to form one, and he wants us to create the best life that you have. And if it's focused, as Pastor Brandon was saying, on the word and renewing your mind and continuing to do the things as unto the Lord, then you reap if you faint not. You will accomplish those things. And I'm not just saying it in a sense, but how much better Father's Day could a guy have than to have every one of his children following and loving and serving the Lord, and knowing, even in that same thing, all of the grandchildren are also following and serving the Lord. And when the scripture says, what can we do to be a blessing to our children's children? Dude, it's not a bank statement. It's not what you leave in that. It's what you've done and what you create and what you help, and it's being consistently constant in loving and serving the Lord. And I tell you, today for Father's Day, can't be better than that.
I would just say, if I could leave you with one thing, it's something I did this year, and Brandon's going to find out later because I'm going to read it to my dad today at Father's Day, and so they're going to look really ridiculous because, no, I'm just kidding. No, but I think I got it from the book I'm reading, and I couldn't go through this Father's Day without trying to change the pain in my life. I think there's been pain from my dad a little bit, and I'm dealing with that. But I also I'm thankful for there's so much more gratitude that I have for my dad more than the pain. I think a lot of times we focus on the pain because that's the thing that hurt us. And so what I did last night at like 2 a.m. because I took a nap during the day yesterday. Long story short, I wrote a letter to my dad, and here's how I started. I said, Dad, I'm a father now, and now that I have kids of my own, I often think about times where you were in my life and the things that you did, and I wonder sometimes if you think about maybe what I think about you. Basically, I said it way better than how I just said it right there. But basically, it was like, I just want to let you know what you did well in my childhood. And I just began to list like real, not just like bullet points, but like, Dad, I remember this time where you drove me home and you bought this like 1964 Ford. Remember that thing that barely run? It was like rusted. It was like color rust. It was like rusted. Anyways, yeah, it was later. But I just remember it was like one of those cars that you had to start with a wrench. You know, but I remember just falling asleep in his lap, and I remember my dad carrying me to my bed. There are like little memories like that where I just felt so safe. I felt like my dad could take on the world. And I just began to write a letter. Jared inspired this through a men's breakfast that we had. He said he wrote a letter to his dad. So I was like, I'm going to write this letter to my dad. I took time last night to write my letter. And I'm telling you, it was an experience because there's so much that I didn't know that my dad instilled in me. And I think the best gift you can give your dad today is write a letter to him and say, Daddy, here's what you did well. And as a father now, here's what I appreciate about who you were and what you did in our lives. And there's many stories that you sat down and started thinking about your childhood and all the things, man. And maybe your dad is not around. Maybe your dad or maybe your dad wasn't around. Maybe you could write a letter to the dad who you wanted to have or who you inspired to be like. And I'm telling you, it's going to do more for you, but also it's going to wreck him. I'm sure my dad is not going to be expecting this because we don't have that kind of communication level. And I think if you could get it down in words, it could be the best Father's Day present you could give your dad. More than a cologne, more than a tie. Not that those are bad. So we like our colognes, okay? I'm a connoisseur of cologne. But yes, write a letter to your dad.
That's good. I wanted to ask Charles one more question. What's one thing that you really hope that your kids remember you as being as a dad?
An example of what my dad has, just being there and being a guiding light, being an example.
Yeah.
Just show him the way because I want what he said once. He wants his daughters to marry someone like him. So there it is right there. It finally came. No, please. Yeah, actually, yeah, there you go. Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
Last thing, real quick. Asher, what's something that you would tell dads to keep doing as from the kids' perspective?
Keep having conversation. At least for me, I feel like that's the best thing I get out of my dad is just communication. That might be different for your kids. So I guess just pay attention to your kid. See what they're like. See how they like to, see what their love language is. Take time to know what their love language is. Yes. Yeah.
Good, Ash. Livy Lou, what's something that you would tell dads to keep on doing? As a daughter, as a girl?
You're always there for me, and I love that. Like, anytime I need help or something, I know I can turn to you and you'll be there. So I love that about you.
So you would tell other dads to just keep being there?
Yeah.
Keep showing up? Good job.
Well, we're going to wrap up this morning by just praying over fathers. And I think, Livy couldn't have closed it, any better there because I think that's really, as a father,
you know, your kids they just want you present. That's it. It's like, I'm not enough. You are enough. If you got breath in your lungs, you are enough. Like they just want your time and your attention. And I think, you know, as I mentioned earlier, Romans 12 says, don't conform to the pattern of this world. I think the pattern of this world for fathers is to, as long as you're providing, that you can be distant and you don't have to be involved and you can just slide into the background. And that's not true. We don't conform as Christ followers, right? That doesn't mean we have to change personalities or we don't have to be something that we're not, but it means that we are charged as husbands and fathers, as men, to follow Christ. And as long as we're submitted to Christ, then he's going to mold us and shape us into the men, into the fathers, into the husbands that we need to be.